Hello, and welcome to Cheers. That's one woman's opinion. I'm your host, Carolyn Mills. Today we'll be looking at Cheers Season 2, Episode 14. And I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. We didn't record last week, sorry, because of Thanksgiving. Those of you that are in the United States, Canadians I know also celebrate, but they do it in October. And but I hope those of you who celebrate had a good day. Mine was good. I went to my friend Tammy's and spent it with her family. That was nice. Right. So, episode 14 was called No Help Wanted. It first aired January 12th, 1984. Directed by James Burrows, written by Max Tash. Guest cast Amanda Horn Kennedy as Becky Hawley, sorry. Russ Martin as customer number one. Martin died in 2005 from an undisclosed cause. Steve, and I hope I can pronounce this right, Gianelli, I think, as customer number two, and Hal Ralston as customer number three. And Ralston died in 2024 from an undisclosed cause. Cheers was filmed in front of a live studio audience, was not said in this episode, and went straight into the cold open. The gang is listening to A Foggy Day in Old London Town. I have never heard of the song outside of the show, so I actually listened to it on Spotify. Um, when I was doing the getting ready for this podcast. It's a pretty good song. I mean, I've always liked Frank Sinatra. He's definitely got a good voice, obviously, but it's a pretty good song. He says that it reminds him of his wife. Sam asks him if that was their song. Coach says no, but Sinatra sang it, which reminds him of the movie From Here to Eternity. I think the writers of Cheers have some kind of infatuation with Sinatra because you may remember Al was originally credited as the man who says Sinatra. His first speaking line, he says Sinatra twice. And here he's listening to Sinatra and talking about Sinatra. So I think somebody in that, either the writers or one of the Charles brothers or perhaps Burroughs, somebody on that show, I think, has a thing for, really likes Frank Sinatra's music. Cliff asks if Coach took his wife to see From Here to Eternity on their first date. Again, Coach says no, but the movie reminds him of Hawaii. Diane asks if Coach and his wife met in Hawaii. Again, Coach says no. He's never been to Hawaii, but neither has Wally Ingalls. Cliff asks who Wally Ingalls is, and Coach tells him, an old pal of mine in the Navy. He introduced me to my wife. Such a great setup. Kind of reminds me of a cold open later on with Sam and mixing up names. We'll get to it when we get to it. Moon River comes on the radio. A customer says that song brings back memories for him. Coach asks him about it, and the man says they played it at his daughter's wedding. Coach thinks the man's crazy because such a simple story. Where Everybody Knows Your Name plays. Becky, an old girlfriend of Sam's, comes into the bar. Sam introduces Becky to Diane. He tells her they've been dating 9 or 10 months. Diane corrects him 4. Becky says she'll miss the fun they had. Diane says that she's accepted Sam's past and isn't jealous. Becky's about to leave, and Sam offers to walk her to her car. Diane sprays him in the crotch with water, and Sam decides to stay in the bar. Great scene when she sprays him. Too funny. Carla points out that Norm is late again. Sam says that it's cutting into his profits. He will need to increase beer prices, and he then tells Cliff that his beer will be $11. And Vicky, Norm must, well, we know Norm drinks a lot, but the fact that he had to raise it to $11, obviously he was joking when he says it, but to raise it $11 to make up for one customer, I believe beer then, I know at one point he says something about it being $2, but there's other times when somebody says $1, so I'm not sure when it increased. So it's somewhere between $1 and $2 for one beer. So that's a pretty big increase going to $11. just for one person who's missing. They question if Norm found a job. Cliff and Sam think that if he did, he would have told them. That's a great scene. Coach says he might have told him, but he'd remember forgetting something. That important. Drinking a lot of water right now. My throat's hurting because I talked on the phone with a friend for an hour today, and I think I hurt my vocal cords. Diane says she saw a man who looked like Norm sneaking into the back of Melville's. She thinks he may have had to get a job as a busboy or a dishwasher. Sam remembers that last week Norm asked him if a real man would take a job washing dishes. Cliff does not want to believe that. He says if it were true, Norm would smell like mackerel. And sure enough, Norm comes down the outside steps with a bunch of cats chasing after him. I actually had a funny thought today when I was doing this. I thought, I hope George Blunt's not allergic to cats. Because not only do we have this scene, there's a scene later on where he has a bunch of cats, and Carl's getting rid of them. Not in this episode, later on in the series. So it seems Norm and cats kind of go together. Sam says, well, that proves it. He's either working at Melville's or driving a herd of cats to Dodge City. Norm sits down in his stool and they notice how he smells. There's that mackerel. Sam asks if Norm has found a job yet, and Norm tells him to just drop it. He then snaps at Coach, who comments on Norm's hands. Norm then apologizes and confesses he's the dishwasher at Melville's and explains he had to take something because unemployment ran out. Know that feeling? He explains that he graduated from accounting school, 30th in his class, and now he watches lettuce float. So he mentions graduating 30th, but he does not say how many. I had a friend who was valedictorian of her class. There were only two people in the class, which essentially means the salutatorian was at the bottom of her class. So being 30th really doesn't mean anything. Is it 30 out of 30 or 30 out of 5,000? I mean, 30 is just a random number. So we don't really know, in other words, how good of an accountant he could be, or at least in theory, because it's all book knowledge at that point. Diane suggests that Sam should hire Norm. Sam says he already has an accountant. Diane tells him, fire him and hire Norm. Sam asks to speak to Diane in private. He does not want to hire Norm. He tells her there must be a reason Norm has been out of work for a year, which, business sense, that's good logic. I mean, why can't you find a job? Especially since he's supposed to be a good accountant when he does his work. Diane tells him that will only motivate Norm to do a good job. Norm and Cliff overhear them, and Norm tells Sam, I don't have to be your accountant. I could always kill myself. Cliff adds, yeah, the man has options. Sam reluctantly agrees. Norm says he's one of the best accountants, but he knows that Sam is only doing it out of pity. And it's a good thing. Cliff actually agrees with him, and he says, "You think he's a good account?" Somebody says, "You think he's a good accountant?" Cliff says, "No, I just think Sam's doing it out of pity." Norm comes out of Sam's office. Diane commends Norm for not drinking while he's at work. Norm says that he wants to do a good job for Sam. Sam asks Norm how he's doing. Norm says he's almost done, and Sam says he hopes Norm is not trying too hard because he doesn't like to take risks with the IRS. Norm comes back out of the office a little while later. He has finished Sam's taxes and tells him that he's getting a $15,000 return. Sam finds this unbelievable. Sam says he's always had to pay in, so this is very different to him. And Norm tries to explain the guy that did it before was just not that good. The next afternoon, Carla is on the phone. She tells the person, babies can eat pizza, just put it in the blender. A customer asks her if the bar has a cigarette machine, which tells you kind of how old this episode is. You can't even smoke in bars, so there's probably no I don't go to bars, but I'm assuming there's probably no cigarette machines in them anymore. Because I haven't seen, I don't go to bars, like I said, but I haven't seen cigarette machines anywhere in ages. So definitely a new time. She tells him in the back, oh, she tells him the cigarette machine is in the back. He pats her bear and says, "Thanks, beautiful." Norm comes in wearing a brown suit with a carnation in the pocket, which I really love the suit. More on that later. Norm says Sam Ugh. Norm asks Sam what he's going to do with that tax refund. Diane suggests that Sam buy something sheer, sexy, and just a little breathtaking for that special someone in his life. Sam asks Norm what size he wears. Another good trope where somebody wants something and they mention the other person kind of acts like it's for a totally different person. Norm shows everyone his new business matches. They say Norm Peterson Incorporated, accounting firm. Carla asked how many people besides Sam he has for clients. Is that what they're calling accounting clients? I think they're clients. We'll go with it. He says just one, and we learn it's Diane. She's getting a nice refund. He tells her all the psychiatrist visits are deductible. She responds, "Shut up, Norm. I'm better. I'm better." Another good funny moment. And we know from past that Diane has some psychological issues with the facial tic and things like that. And we also, which occurs when she's stressed out. And of course, we know she has that breakdown. She has that breakdown coming up, which we'll discuss in season three. Yeah, it has to be season three. Diane talks to Sam in private. She says she's proud of him for what he's done for Norm. Carla comes from the back and asks Sam to help him with the glasses on the tray. The phone rings. Sam asks Coach to answer it. Coach tells him it's his accountant. Sam quickly rings the bell, so Coach, oops, I wrote that wrong. So Norm cannot hear. Norm asks what's going on, and Sam confesses he didn't turn in the return Norm did and had someone else do it. Norm says Sam's other accountant wouldn't know a deductible if he sat on it. Everyone is upset with Sam. Sam actually makes a comment that it's not good to go into business with friends, and Carla responds, "And you can go in business with anyone here," implying he no longer has friends because they're very upset with him. Diane says that she stands with Sam. She explains she doesn't agree with him, but she supports his courage in standing up for what he believes in. I totally relate to this. When Kirstie Alley was alive, I followed her on Facebook. Um, there's for a while I followed her, but a lot of people, whenever she's a Trump supporter, which I've said before I am. But when anybody would comment, one of the biggest arguments for them were um they were like basically attacking her, and people would say, "Oh, well, you're a Scientologist," which I don't approve of Scientology at all. In fact, Leah Remini is my hero, one of my heroes, because of the work she does. Her and Mike Ridner, amazing people. Um, R.I.P. for Mike Ridner, of course. But I wrote on that thing. But I talk with her on Instagram and whatnot, and I would tell her, "Listen, I even said I do not agree with what you believe in. I believe in something totally different. I'm a Christian. However, I would happily defend you to the death. Hopefully, it never comes to that. But I would defend you to the death for your right to believe what you believe because you do have that right, even if I totally disagree with it." And it just bothers me. I mean, first of all, you're attacking somebody you don't know. You're not using. I just did because I tutored my seventh graders. I just talked about logical fallacies with them. And you're basically attacking that person. That is not logic. Not attacking what they said, her belief in Trump, her supporting Trump at that point. Not attacking that, you're not even mentioning that. You're attacking her religion. It makes no sense. Or other times people would say, well, your career is washed up. Has nothing to do with who she voted for. I just, yeah. Sorry, a little tangent there. But I very much liked what Diane did here. It's very good. Norm is ready to leave. He says, if you don't trust me as an accountant, then you don't trust me as a friend. Sam tells him he needs to learn to separate business from friendship. Another thing I agree with. It's very hard to do, which is why really business often do not work when friends get together to do it. Some have done really well, but often it does not happen. It is a dangerous thing. The two argue until Norm threatens to leave, putting on his coat. Sam goes into his office. Norm says he has to settle something with Sam before he goes. He heads to Sam's office, and Sam asks him, how do you want to handle this? I was not quite sure what the this is referring to. He was in his office and the door was closed when Norm said that he has to settle something with him. And then I thought, are we going like all West Side Story, Outsidersy type thing where do we fight with knives, guns, fist fight? I mean, that's what it sounds like when I hear, how do we want to settle this? We're going into a rumble. So maybe that was me. Maybe I misunderstood something. Norm cries, saying, I don't want to go, Sam. George Wendt does a really good job in this scene. I mean, he's actually amazing. Ted Danson is too. But George Wendt, I think, really shines in the scene because he's trying to, like, I mean, the crying, I mean, he's just, it's good. His blubbering. Sam tells Norm he needs to start acting like an adult. Norm gets up from the rug and Sam hands him a tissue. Norm explains, this bar is all I have. You are my family. You are my brother. Sam responds, oh, well, you're my brother too, Norm. I feel kind of bad for Vera here when he says this is all he has. Norm blows his nose. Sam wipes his eyes. Norm hands him the tissue, and Sam is about to wipe his eyes, realizing Norm just blew his nose and throws it into the waste paper basket. Sam tells Norm that starting next tax season, Norm is the accountant, his accountant. And Norm says, I'll take it. I never, at least as far as I can recall, but I don't remember ever hearing them mentioning ever anything about Norm being the accountant or seeing him do anything regarding things at Cheers. Um, and we know he gets off and unemployed. For a while, he's got a different job. We'll see that later on. He has his own thing, of course. But I never hear this again. So I'm wondering at some point if Sam fired him again because it just never mentioned. But I don't know. So Cliff has the pool room blackboard and is talking about DNA. He says that DNA stands for dames are not assertive. Diane corrects him. I often see on IMDb and the trivia things people making the comment that there's a continuity issue because Diane calls him Cliff instead of Clifford. This has happened on more than one occasion. And I thought, yeah, you're because Norm she usually calls Norman. And very rare I've ever heard her call him Norm. I've heard her call Cliff instead of Clifford on several occasions. I don't think it is a continuity issue. I think Diane has really no respect for Cliff because Cliff is full of bull. He makes up stuff. Everybody, a lot of other people in the bar believe him. Um, they think he's a very smart man. What he's even said, he's one of the smart. He calls him the smartest man he knows when he's on. But no, I think she really doesn't have a lot of respect for him. So when he's being a moron like here with the DNA, she's calling him Cliff. I think she calls him Clifford most of the time. But then there's times where she's like, dude, you're an idiot. I'm just calling you Cliff. That's my opinion. Feel free to share in the emails or on the other things that I'll share later, Facebook, etc. What you think about that? Sam and Norm come out of the office. Sam announces that Norm is his new accountant. Diane says she could almost cry and grabs the tissue. Norm scoffs, girls. Sam agrees. It's a funny ending because we know they were both in the office crying. I gave this episode 3.5 out of five beer nuts. It was an okay episode. Poor Sam looks like a jerk for feeling the way he does and the way many other business people do, doing business with friends. He and Norm almost stopped being friends, but it's Cheers, so of course Norm's not going anywhere. We know he's there. In fact, he's one of the few people. I believe it's him, Ted Danson, and Rhea Perlman are the only three that have been in every single episode. I thought John Ratzenberger was, but apparently he wasn't. I'm not sure which one he missed, but he's not on the list. MVP, of course, went to George Wendt. Phenomenal job, especially in the office scene. And I also gave his character, Norm Peterson, best dressed. That brown suit with the carnation was awesome. I love that suit. Grand Slam line. Diane says, "You know, Cliff, if it's true a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, you're a walking time bomb." Cliff says, "Oh, thank you, Diane." Great line. He totally doesn't even know he's being insulted. On baseline, Becky, she was the customer that came in that Sam dated. Becky says, "When do you get off?" Sam says, "Oh, I don't get off anymore, Becky." So funny. Here's a little known fact. This episode, which aired again on January 12th, 1984, it aired on future Cheers cast member Kirstie Alley's 33rd birthday. And before I wrap up, I also wanted to ask, I'm going to give you all the things in a second, but Ted Danson's birthday's coming up, and he's the first one. I have two this month, but his is coming up on the 29th. So we're doing another movie birthday rewatch. Please feel free on any of the social medias or email that I'm about to show. Please let me know what is your favorite Ted Danson movie. And if you liked us, please like, subscribe, follow, comment, etc. You can join the Facebook group Cheers, that's one woman's opinion. So you can follow us on Instagram at Cheers One Woman's Opinion Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter X at One Woman's Opinion. And as always, you can email us with questions, comments at Cheers One Woman's Opinion Podcast at gmail.com. Next week, we'll be looking at Cheers Season 2, Episode 15, and Kochi Makes 3. And that's One Woman's Opinion. Thank you.